Let's do.
But anyways, back to what we were talking about. Why do you guys think I chose Sova as a possible character that should be nerfed after Sage and Cypher? So the reason I talked about the two characters right here to get nerfed, right, Sage and Cypher, is because they're just simply like 100% pick rate, and I think a problem is like they're the only characters that are really picked that they don't really fill like a role, like they kind of do, but they just do that so well that there's no options to substitute. Like there's nothing that can substitute a Sage, and there's nothing that can really substitute a Cypher. And maybe that's just a problem with lack of choices. But like Brimstone can be substituted with Omen, Phoenix can be substituted with Breach, etc., etc. And Sova almost has the same case where he's picked so much right now. He's one of the highest picked characters in the entire game because he is such a good informational character with his recon dart. It's a cooldown based. His drone is very powerful for clearing a lot of space and also gives you extra value if you tag people with a dart. And on top of that, his ultimate is very, very strong. It can stop diffuses and it can kill people really good with in combo with wall hacks from your drone or whatever. So his like offensive and defensive capability is really good. And then he has shock darts too, so like those help do a lot of different things as well. He's just so strong, and you don't really substitute Sova for anything. Like you kind of can, but out of like the fourth slot on a team, like the fourth or fifth slot on a team, which is where Sova belongs after Sage, Brimstone, and Cypher, Sova is picked more than pretty much every single other character in the game. And sometimes you swap him out, but you know, it's a lot less likely for him than other characters. This is why we're seeing like in every tournament. I'll show you guys the previous tournament that we broke down before. Every team has Sova. See, like right here they didn't because they used Jet for some reason. I think like opping or something on Bind. Sova. You go down here. Sova here. They actually didn't run Sova on here, which is interesting. Very, very interesting. But once again, like they lost one map and they struggled on this map without having a Sova. And Sova, you know what I mean? You guys get my point. The interesting thing is, like I said here, like so TSM, they're running Jet on Haven because Jet's really good at opping on Haven. But they're running Sova on Bind, so they run Sova on other maps. So yeah, long story short, I think Sova is probably one of the best characters and would probably need to be nerfed after Sage and Cypher if they get nerfed. Turret Engineer Agent. Yeah, so what do you guys think? The reason I'm talking about this is because let's think of like overall roles. We already talked about this in terms of like overall roles. Wait, first I want to see if you guys can hear the audio. You guys can, right? All right, cool. So there's like roles in Valorant, right? You have your smoke characters, which takes up a character slot. You have your flash or entry characters. We'll just call it the entry characters. Then you have like what else do you have? Your info. We'll just say like info characters, which is like Cypher and Sova. And like what else do you have? You have your broken characters, your OP, like Sage. Because like what is Sage, right? Your support? We'll say support. But like Sage is the only support, right? There's no other supports in the game other than Sage, correct? I think she's the only one that can heal teammates. And she also has revive. And she supports sites with like wall and slow and stuff. So you have Sage is the only one for that. For smoke, you have Brim and Omen. Yeah, Brim and Omen. For entry, we have a lot, right? I'm not going to name all of them, but you guys, like... We'll just do colors. We'll do Phoenix. Raze. Breach. Reyna. Is that, like, the 4 most popular entry? And then we'll say, I think for the last one, we'll say flex. Right? Does this make sense?
What? Did we just become
Yo, Monday,
friends?
thanks so much for 34 months, dude. Much love, bro. So like the last one is like flex, right? Would it make sense to have a name for the last pick? I think I would just say flex, right? Which is like where sometimes you do a second smoke character, sometimes you do a second entry, sometimes you do a second info character like Sova. I think what we could do is just take like an arrow and put it like that. So your smoke, entry, and info, sometimes it goes to the flex. The flex roll. So this is like the structure of Valorant. Do you guys think that it's like Valorant should go down this path where it has like structured roles? Or do you think it should just like make characters and just whatever? You know what I mean? Just like balance them randomly. Or do you think it should be structured like this? Because if you actually think about this, like this is it's gonna become a problem in Valorant later on down the road, where if like these roles become so defined, and when you're playing ranked and you just get people that don't play smoke characters, or you get people that don't play support, it's gonna be so much harder if you have to have like a set role and like class and stuff. Which I think it's okay right now. Like, you know, characters, they don't really matter. They do matter, but like you can win without like a structured setup. But I don't know. I think later on down the road, it's going to be a little bit of an issue. Overwatch open queue all over again. The way they create characters with dedicated skills, it's pigeonholing positions into this sort of meta. Yeah. Like one of my absolute favorite things about Valorant is how they have like characters with overlapping abilities. Like Overwatch doesn't really have that, besides like besides the roles that they're in, right? Like main tanks have shields, supports have heal. But like I really like how, you know, you have like Brimstone and Omen, they both have smokes for an ability, but they just work differently. They're like interchangeable, a little bit different. I like that a lot, that they've chosen to duplicate abilities across the board. Like you have Reyna, Breach, and Phoenix, they all have flashes. I like that a lot. Yeah, and Jet has smokes, so like there's like more, and like Viper has smokes. I like that they chose to like duplicate abilities like that. But naturally that just creates a defined meta. Like this is the meta here. You have your smoke, you have your entry, you have your info, you have your support, and Sage is the only support, so Sage is just always picked. And then here for the info characters, we have Cypher plus Sova. And then, so where do we put, like now that I break this down like this, right? Where do you put Viper? In this category of all these roles, where do you put Viper? She's in the flex category, right? And then what else are we missing? What other characters are in Valorant? What characters are we missing, chat? Jet. So Jet's in the flex role, right? Because she's not a smoke character. She can kind of be an entry a little bit, but to be honest, she's more of a flex, because you have to have an entry. You can't have your Jet be the entry. So put Jet down there. Viper should be smoke, but she isn't good at it. Yeah, that's the big problem. So like, so what are we missing? Any other characters, or did we get all of them? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. How many characters are in Valorant? Is it 11? That's all of them, right? So now that we break down this whole list and we understand the different roles and the different characters and the characters that they define, or the roles that they define, do you guys understand why the meta is like what it is? Where you pick like one from each role. You have your Brimstone, you have your Cypher, you have your Sage, which are the three most popular because they fill these roles. And then you pick one of the entries and you pick one of the flex. And the problem is, so you pick your entry, right? We'll just say that you pick Raze because you're playing Bind. So then you have your Brim, your Raze, your Cypher, your Sage, and then you have one spot left. And you would think like, okay, let's pick a flex character. What are our options? Oh, we have Viper and Jet. Oh, but the problem is the flex role also includes everything else in the game, which is the info character, the entry character, and the smoke character. So then you look at Viper and Jet, but you also look at Omen, Phoenix, Breach, Reyna, and Sova. And which characters are you going to pick out of all those? You only have one slot left. You're going to pick the best character that fits for the map that you're playing, which is going to be most of the time Sova. But sometimes you run Jet because like on Haven, Jet's really good at opping. Sometimes you randomly run Omen, like on Split. If you want two smoke characters, you'll run Omen. But it's like Viper doesn't really fit anywhere. Like some people are finding success with her on Split, but Split's not even being played in tournaments right now, so it's awkward. Because then you also like think like, okay, if we're gonna pick Viper, why wouldn't we just pick another flash character? Let's just play Reyna or Phoenix. Why would we want Viper over Reyna or Phoenix? You know what I mean? Sova fits more of a flex in this diagram. I would agree, but at the same time, I think if Cypher was just deleted from the game, I think Sova would be permanently picked. You know what I mean? I think his informational value is so important. I think he would, if there was an extra slot that was open on a team and Cypher was just gone, I think Sova would be permanently picked. But I can understand that. I can kind of agree. I think a big difference between like when you talk about like info characters, like the role, a big difference is Cypher is really good at stalling when Sova is not, which is a big reason why Cypher's picked. But the reason Cypher, I classify him as like an info character, is because I forgot the P here, by the way. Is because Cypher can get information in multiple ways. He can get it with his camera, and he can also get it with his traps. Whereas Sova is the same thing. He gets it with his arrow, and he gets it with his drone.